much. Let's talk oil prices. They're easing off a little bit, but they hit a 2-month high yesterday on growing tensions in the Middle East. Tensions that are high enough that President Trump addressing concerns about a possible Israeli strike on Iran. Listen to this.
How imminent is an Israeli strike on Iran?
Well, I don't want to say imminent, but it looks like it's something that could very well happen. Look, it's very simple, not complicated.
If it's big enough for the president to talk about, it's certainly big enough for us to talk about with our friend Helima Croft, head of commodity strategy at RBC Capital Markets, CNBC contributor, and somebody that wrote about this, again, in a must-read note. You work all the time because this came out late last night, so thank you. Oil moved up 4.5% on this, and there is talk, as we hit yesterday, thank you for flagging it, by the way, to me, that potentially the U.S. embassy or embassies could be partially or completely evacuated. Scary time.
Scary times, non-essential drawdowns of 3 embassies, our embassy in Baghdad, Kuwait, and Bahrain, raising questions about, are we on the precipice of some type of military action? We also had the UK Navy come out yesterday and warn about potential military action around key waterways. So it was a lot of news about potential unrest in the Middle East.
Why?
Well, we're getting to the precipice of do we get a deal or no deal on the Iranian nuclear talks. It really sounds like Sunday will be make or break. We're waiting for the Iranian counteroffer. It all comes down to the issue of zero enrichment. The White House, the Israelis, hawkish members of Congress keep insisting Iran can enrich no uranium as part of a deal. The Iranians are saying, no, we want to enrich at low levels. And if you deny us enrichment, we're not going to come to the table.
Do you think this was saber rattling then just to kind of make a point ahead of the counteroffer?
Well, it's so interesting because you do hear some whispers, resist saber rattling to say we're serious. What I question, is that going to show the Iranians you're serious, a partial drawdown of an embassy, or sending B-2 bombers back to Diego Garcia? So the question is this going to scare the Iranians into coming to the table, or do the Iranians essentially believe the U.S. is not going to participate in a military strike and they can continue to hold a hard line?
Why is Israel like the proxy here for whatever skirmish may break? And I understand that Iran's missiles, that's what we're talking about, they can hit Israel. And so Israel is now trying to think through whether it needs to do something preemptive. And can you just kind of explain the possible sequence of events here?
Well, I think we really need to be watching, what happens with the Israelis. The Israelis have said that they cannot tolerate Iran having enrichment capabilities. There is a view that Iran is getting increasingly close to being a nuclear state. If you look at the IAEA latest report, Iran's highly enriched uranium stockpile has grown by 50% since the last.
Is there, I'm sorry to interrupt, but is there, in other words, a difference of opinion between the U.S. and Israel on what's acceptable here? And is the back channel talk potentially happening between the U.S. and Israel about whether the Israelis feel comfortable with whatever we might feel comfortable agreeing to?
So what's interesting is we don't really know what the final U.S. offer is going to be. What is the final term sheet? Sometimes we hear we could live with some enrichment as long as there's intrusive monitoring, inspections. Other times we go back to zero. Zero is what the Israelis want. It's going to be key what the U.S. final offer is. And that leads to the possibility of, do the Israelis go alone? What happens if talks break down? I think there is an increasing view if talks do break down, that is when the probability of an Israeli strike grows.
There's plenty of oil in the world. If you just, if we take out all risk, supply demand is pretty well balanced.
We're balanced
right
now,
right?
But if you did see a situation, so for example, if there was a strike and, for example, Karg Island, 90% of Iranian oil exports, Karg Island. And so if you saw something like that happen, all of a sudden you would be in a materially higher price environment. Also pay close attention to...
Because you'd be down over Karg Island, you'd be down over 1 million barrels a day.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's 90% of Iranian oil exports. Then you have to go to the issue of, you have these militias in Iraq. Where are the Iraqi militias located? They're located in southern Iraq, close to key places like Basra. So again, there's a lot of risk in terms of potential targets that involve oil. Yeah. The question is, are we going to get to that point? And if we did get to a situation where we saw intensification of attacks, you do have spare capacity. So would we see OPEC spare capacity coming onto the market?